sharp. Nike servers buckle like a house of cards. The Nike app crashes so hard it might as well have been hit by a meteor. This wasn't a technical glitch or some random system failure. This was the Caitlin Clark effect, unleashing pure chaos on the internet. And Nike was completely unprepared for what they had just witnessed. Sneakerheads started refreshing their browsers like slot machine addicts, hammering the purchase button until their phones overheated. The official Nike Twitter account went silent for 3 hours, because even their social media team couldn't explain what had just happened. The numbers tell a story that would make any CEO's jaw drop. 13,000 pairs of Clark's exclusive Kobe v Pro Tro vanished in 60 seconds flat. Not 60 minutes, 60 seconds. That's 216 pairs selling every single second, faster than you can say got 'em. Retail price, a modest $190, but within hours, those same shoes were commanding $400 on StockX, $375 on GOAT, and some desperate fans were shelling out over $500 on eBay. We're talking about a 200% markup before the original buyers even got their shipping confirmations. The secondary market went absolutely nuclear, turning what should have been a routine product drop into a feeding frenzy that exposed just how badly Nike had misread the room. Resellers were posting screenshots of their profits before the shoes even shipped. One bot user claimed to have secured 47 pairs in the first 30 seconds alone. The financial impact was immediate and staggering. Nike generated $2.47 million in gross revenue before most people finished their morning coffee. Here's where this story gets juicy. For the past 2 years, Nike had been pouring millions into marketing jaWilson as the face of women's basketball. Custom colorways, cinematic commercials, the full superstar treatment. Malia Obama directed one of her promotional videos. They crafted elaborate backstories for each shoe release, complete with community impact narratives and social justice themes. On paper, it made perfect sense. Two-time MVP, WNBA champion, Olympic gold medalist. Wilson had every credential you could want. Nike executives were convinced they had found their next Jordan, someone who could transcend sports and become a cultural icon. But while Nike was busy crafting Wilson's narrative, something else was happening. Caitlin Clark was torching college basketball records and turning casual fans into diehard believers. She was packing arenas, breaking TV ratings, and generating the kind of organic buzz that marketing departments dream about. Yet somehow Nike's executives were too busy looking at spreadsheets to notice the freight train heading straight for them. Internal emails later revealed that some Nike executives had dismissed Clark as a college phenomenon who wouldn't translate to professional success. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. While Wilson was publicly questioning why Clark was getting signature shoe deals and hinting at unfair treatment, reports emerged that Wilson herself had been sitting on a secret Nike extension. The timing couldn't have been worse. Social media exploded with accusations of manufactured outrage and strategic silence. Critics started asking uncomfortable questions about why Wilson hadn't disclosed her own Nike negotiations, while seemingly criticizing Clark's opportunities. The optics were brutal, and suddenly what looked like a legitimate concern about equity in women's sports started feeling like corporate theater with hidden agendas. Wilson's camp remained mostly silent about the allegations, which only fueled more speculation. Former Nike employees started leaking details about internal discussions, where Wilson's team allegedly pushed for Clark's deals to be delayed or minimized. The controversy reached a boiling point when sports media personalities began choosing sides, with some defending Wilson's right to privacy about her contracts, while others accused her of deliberate manipulation of public opinion. Clark's appeal goes beyond basketball statistics. She's got that rare combination of talent and authenticity that can't be manufactured in a boardroom. When she pulls up from 35 feet and drains a three-pointer, it doesn't just excite basketball fans, it creates moments that get shared across every social platform, discussed at dinner tables, and replayed in driveways across America. She's bridging generational gaps the way Jordan did in the 90s, connecting with everyone from elementary school kids to their grandparents. Nike spent years trying to engineer that kind of connection for Wilson, but Clark generates it naturally just by being herself on the court. The numbers back this up in ways that are impossible to ignore. Clark's rookie season drove a 37% increase in WNBA viewership. Road games featuring Clark sold out arenas that had been averaging 60% capacity the previous season. Local businesses in opposing cities reported 25% revenue spikes on Clark game days. She wasn't just playing basketball. She was moving economic needles in ways that hadn't been seen in women's sports since the 1999 World Cup soccer team. Wilson's statistics were impressive, but Clark's cultural impact was undeniable. The shoe drop forced Nike into damage control mode. Internal sources whispered about emergency meetings and rapid strategy shifts. The company that had spent months slow-playing Clark's signature line suddenly found themselves scrambling to capitalize on momentum they should have been building all along. Server stress tests became the new priority metric. Translation: make sure we don't embarrass ourselves again when the real signature shoe launches. The pivot represented both an admission of past mistakes and a desperate bet that they could still catch lightning in a bottle. Nike's stock price reflected the chaos, dipping 2.3% in after-hours trading as investors questioned the company's strategic decision-making. Competitor brands like Adidas and Under Armour were reportedly reaching out to other rising WNBA stars, hoping to avoid Nike's mistakes. The corporate scramble was so intense that Nike temporarily reassigned their entire women's basketball marketing team to focus exclusively on Clark-related projects. They started treating her like a natural disaster that required emergency response protocols. This sellout sent shockwaves through the entire women's sports marketing landscape. TV ratings spiked 200% when Clark's name is on the marquee. Road games that used to draw half-empty arenas are suddenly selling out. Local bars in opposing cities throw Clark watch parties. That's the difference between having impressive stats and creating cultural moments. Wilson's resume sparkles with accolades, but Clark's story grows every time she steps on the court. The market had been screaming this message for months, but it took a server crash to make Nike finally listen. Other brands started conducting emergency audits of their own women's sports portfolios, desperate to identify potential Clark-level talents before Nike-style blindness cost them millions. Puma signed 3 rising college players within a week of the Clark shoe drop. Adidas fast-tracked signature deals for 2 WNBA rookies. The entire industry had been awakened to the possibility that they'd been underestimating the commercial potential of women's basketball. Marketing executives who had been treating women's sports as charity cases suddenly started seeing dollar signs. The behind-the-scenes drama was even more explosive than the public controversy. Rumors suggested that Nike's basketball division had been internally divided about Clark's marketability from the beginning. Some executives championed her immediately after her college breakout, while others remained skeptical about her ability to maintain relevance in professional basketball. The delay in her signature shoe development wasn't just corporate inefficiency, it was the result of actual boardroom battles over resource allocation. Wilson's camp allegedly lobbied against Clark's deals, arguing that established WNBA stars deserved priority over unproven rookies. The internal politics became so toxic that Nike's HR department had to mediate disputes between marketing teams. When the Clark shoe finally sold out in 60 seconds, it wasn't just a vindication of her market appeal, it was a devastating blow to everyone who had doubted her commercial potential. The implications extend far beyond these 2 athletes. Nike's fast-tracking Clark's first true signature line, complete with new silhouettes and women-specific designs. Industry insiders expect production runs of 150,000 pairs minimum, but still engineered scarcity to maintain that hunger factor. Wilson's upcoming releases will test whether narrative adjustments can reignite demand, but she's fighting an uphill battle against Clark's mainstream momentum. The sneaker culture has spoken, and it's choosing authenticity over algorithms. Clark didn't just sell shoes, she exposed the gap between manufactured hype and genuine magnetism, reminding everyone that consumers crown superstars, not corporate committees. Now Nike's racing to keep pace with the phenomenon they almost missed entirely, while the rest of the industry watches and takes notes on how not to fumble the next generational talent that walks through their doors. The Clark effect has permanently changed how brands evaluate women's sports partnerships, shifting focus from traditional metrics to cultural impact and organic fan engagement. But the most shocking revelation came from former Nike employees who started speaking anonymously about the company's internal culture. According to these sources, Nike's women's basketball division had been operating under outdated assumptions about what female athletes could achieve commercially. They had been treating women's sports like a corporate responsibility initiative rather than a legitimate profit center. The Clark phenomenon shattered those assumptions in real time, forcing a complete recalibration of how Nike approaches female athlete partnerships. The company is now reportedly conducting a comprehensive review of every women's sports contract, looking for other potential Clark-level talents they might have overlooked. This internal reckoning represents more than just a business pivot. It's a fundamental shift in how one of the world's largest sports brands thinks about gender and marketability. The 60-second sellout became a catalyst for changes that will ripple through women's sports for years to come.